Well, good morning. Want to welcome you to this session, this Distinction Series session, Important versus Urgent. I'll give you a warning. This one's going to be a little bit uncomfortable, but I think some discomfort is a good thing. It just doesn't feel good. And the discomfort is going to be if you really choose to participate and make the most of this. So let's just go ahead and get started with our typical rules of the game slide. I don't want to leave that out, especially on this particular session. The agreement that we need to have this morning for this to be just amazing for you and for you to get the most out of this is as follows. There are two kinds of, I think, attitudes or mentalities in the world. It's a little bit simplistic, but I think it's true. People either own things or they're a victim. In other words, they make things happen or things happen to them. And whenever there's a problem or a challenge or a difficulty, which life brings those things, you either step up and own it or you make excuses, you blame, you just don't deal with it, you procrastinate, you put it off. And those are just two different attitudes or mindsets. I own it or I'm a victim. For you to get the most out of this today, I want you to come into this as an owner. I'm going to own it. I'm going to deal with my issues. Secondly, 100% participation is just so important. And in a minute, specifically, I'm going to give you an exercise to do, a little task to do that if you fully do it, you will benefit a whole lot more from this than if you just sit and listen. So you will need an 8.5 by 11 blank sheet of paper and something to write with. That's all that's needed to do the exercise. But I encourage you to do that. Um, the third rule of the game today is to drop the I know. You've probably, if you're on this call or you're tuning into this or downloading this and watching it on YouTube, you've probably heard this topic many, many times, the distinction between urgency and importance. And um, get rid of all that information for now. I'm not saying throw it away, but just set it aside and come into this like this is the first time you've ever heard this. Just come into this with a blank slate, just like that blank piece of paper you've got in front of you now. Just an open mind, an open mindset. And with that, this will bring some fun into your life that may not be there. I'm all about fun. I think fun is a mindset and a state of mind and feeling that you are open to more possibilities. You're open to more learning. You're open to doing a better job. You're open to just participating in life and in business and a job at a different level. So it's a choice. So if you'll own it, if you'll participate 100% today, if you'll drop your preconceived notions and your ideas and your thoughts from the past and just set those aside and choose to have some fun this morning with this, you're just going to walk away with a real, I think, a real value out of 30 minutes of your life. And speaking of that, here is your first task. Take out that 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. And in some form or fashion, you may not be the best artist, but if you can draw an 8 by 10 grid, that's what that is. It looks like that. That's going to take you a minute or so to do that. It doesn't have to be exact. You don't have to use a ruler. You just need to have 80 boxes. You can even draw 80 boxes on the sheet of paper. They don't even have to be connected necessarily. Just 80 boxes. And so I'm going to give you a moment to take out that piece of paper and start drawing those boxes. Draw them quickly. Don't be a perfectionist here. You just need 80 blank boxes on your piece of paper. So we'll give you a moment here. We'll give you about 30 seconds to get that drawn and have some fun with it. You know, the boxes can be a little askew and a little weird, just as long as you have 80 of them. But the grid is the easiest way to do the math and count them, 8 by 10. But something that looks like that in front of you that you can write on. Give you about 15 more seconds or so to get that done. Nobody else is going to look at this, so it doesn't have to look great. It just need to have those 80 blank boxes in front of you. Okay, now what I want you to start doing is whatever your age is. So I'm 68. So what I would want to do is I would want to take an X or a color or just color in 68 of those boxes or put an X in 68 of those boxes. So you just got to start counting and putting an X in 68 of the 80 boxes if you're 68 years old. Now, if you're older than that, you're going to have a few more boxes with X's. And if you're younger than that, you'll have a few, you'll have less. But I just want you to do this. And I think doing it and writing it out like this and actually using your, kinesthetic, have this paper in front of me and I'm making these boxes, it really helps you get the feel of this more than if you just looked at it or we just talked about it. So that full participation, an 8 by 10 grid, 80 boxes, which represents 80 years of your life. We're just using 80 as the number. Certainly people live longer nowadays than that, and a number of people live less, but that's a good average for today. Now, what I want you to do is look at that grid, and there's a lot of learnings from that grid. So just start to think of some thoughts that you have as you look at that life represented by those 80 boxes, one box per year, and the boxes that are spent or have been lived have an X in it. What is the thought you have? I did this morning for myself, and in this grid that you see in front of you, I have one strip left. If I look at the 80-year cutoff, I have one of the 8 strips left, 10 years. It's a little nerve-wracking. It's a little eye-opening to say, wow, I don't have a lot of time remaining. So let's just stay there for a minute because this is going to get this lesson across as good as anything that I do today. We're talking about importance versus urgency. And then I put in this odd statement. It's a key to experiencing peace. And that might seem a little disjointed. So let's just talk about the two words first, how they're defined for this morning. Something urgent is something that you feel the stress or the pressure to do it now, to do it immediately, to not wait any at all, but it's something's on fire and the fire needs to be put out. Someone is calling you and you need to answer the phone. Someone is interrupting you and they want your attention. If you're a young mother, you understand urgency. You live there with children. They want everything and they want it now and they want attention. And frankly, there's nothing wrong with urgency. Most of our life, much of our life is in urgency. And you can live urgently and have some peace, but there's this other thing called importance. And I'm putting it as a contrast to urgency. Now, things can certainly be both urgent and important, but I want you to think today of the things that are important that aren't so urgent. Friends, that is the game changer. The important things in your life that are not urgent. And I'm going to tell you that's the pathway to peace, is kind of figuring that out and starting to conform your life to living for what's important versus what's urgent. If you look back at that grid, it just tells you some things. Here's one thing it tells you, that time is limited. You know, people think money is the big limitation. I just don't have enough money. Well, the truth is, if you're ambitious or smart or figure some things out, you can make more money. You can get more money. You can get more money if you get creative and get some help and get some education. You can figure out how to make more money. But no matter how smart you are, or no matter what you figure out, or know how ambitious you are creative, you can't have any more time. That 80 boxes, or for you, it's 90 boxes, whatever that is. The point is, life is brief. And those of us that are a little older and maybe have some grandchildren, maybe some great grandchildren, you can't believe that those children you had are these, you know, my kids are now in their 40s, but pushing 50. And I'm thinking, wow, that really makes me feel old. But it does tell me this, that life is brief and it comes and it goes so quickly and it's limited and death is guaranteed. I said this was a little bit of a heavier conversation, but when we look at this dynamic of important versus urgent, the important things that often don't have that urgency with them are what grows our life. It's what takes our life forward. It's where we start to make a difference. It's where we take a new step. It's where we reach out and we stretch. Because urgency is usually in the moment, and urgency is really staying where you are, and it's just trying to do the best you can with what you have. It's not looking beyond the immediate chaos or the immediate activity and letting that little ball that you're shaking with all that snow settle so you can get some clarity about what really matters. And we're taking 30 minutes today to talk about this. I'm suggesting you take a whole lot more time to think about this. If you really want to experience that peace and that sense in life that you're on target, you're where you want to be. So, I this principle of B times do equals have. If you've been around with me for long, or you've seen any of the other presentations, you know that I talk about this all the time. In life, we want to have certain things in our job, in our team, in our business, in a project that we're planning. We want to have an outcome, and have is outcome. And we define, this is what I would love to see happen. This is what I want to obtain. This is what I want to accomplish. This is what I want to have. This is my goal. You could use that word. The question that comes from this principle is, what do I need to do to have that? The have is just a desire. The have might just be an emotion or a passion or something you want, but that doesn't get it for you. Just thinking about it doesn't get it for you. What gets it for you is actions that you take. And again, important is to calm down and figure out, well, what do I need to do to have what I want? Seems so simple, doesn't it? So common sense. Yet, how many people think that way? And then there's even a deeper question. Well, I've got to multiply that action or that effort I'm going to put in by a certain way of showing up, a certain way of being. To have what I want, who do I need to be? And what do I need to do? And if I'm not being the person I need to be fully, I'm going to have to do a whole lot more to get a little bit of a result. And if I'm just being this wonderful person and not getting off the couch and doing anything, the math works that way, that you get a zero have. No doing, no having. Low being, low having, no being. If I don't show up right, I can be busy, 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 an urgency. Doing, 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 that have very little result. So just ponder that principle because the rest of this morning is going to be built on that, on the important versus urgent and the be, do, have. So if you've kind of got those two principles in your mind, let's start to get a little more intrusive. As your coach this morning, I'm going to start to meddle with your head. So we're going to look at the be first part. Who do I need to be to have what I want? I want to help you practically see how to shift your be. And I'm going to say a main way you can shift your being this morning is by determining what's important versus what's urgent. We need to clarify what's important by asking questions like this. And you can answer these questions to yourself, or if you want to jot some notes down, that's fine. Just however you learn. Are you currently clear on what really matters? Are you so caught up in the urgent that you haven't even thought about that lately? What really is important and what really matters? Could you make a list of those priorities? Have you made a list of those priorities? Have you written them down? I find that some people get a sense of what's important to them, but they never slow down and get out of that urgency and start to actually write them down. These are the things, the few things in life that are most important. Have you got a list of that? Second, another way to ask the question, what are your current non-negotiables? What are the things that you refuse to compromise on? I can give you some examples. For me, marriage, I'm married to a wonderful woman, 41 years this year. We're going to be together. That's non-negotiable for both of us. That's our commitment to each other and to God. Sometimes, most times are wonderful these days. Didn't always used to be like that through the years, but good times, bad times, sickness or health. If you've been to a wedding, a traditional wedding, you've heard the vows. It's non-negotiable till death do us part. That's an example. Probably how you feel and take care and care about how you care about your children is a non-negotiable for you. You're not going to compromise your love for your children. So what most people find that do this exercise with me is their non-negotiable has to do with people. There's just not a lot beyond this life I think it's all going to burn up basically. And there's a few important things that are going to last beyond. And I think it's relationships and our spiritual relationship to God. I really think for me, my relationships with people and my relationship with my creator are the non-negotiables for me. What do you want to be most important to you? Now, this is a little different question. You have a sense for what is important to you and what is not just urgent, but really big picture is what matters. But maybe there's some things that you want to be in that category that are not. Are there any things like that? See, this is what a coach does. I just ask you a question. I don't answer the question. I let you answer the question. What do I want to be important to me? With that little bit of those few boxes I have left on that grid, what do I want to accomplish? Who do I want to be? What do I want to have? What do I want to do before that last box is full? And this is a real medley question, disturbing question. Will living within those non-negotiables that you have take you to where you want to go? Are you on the path to your desired destination? Or do you need to make some changes? That's just a great question to take this few minutes on a Wednesday morning and ask that question. Here's another one. Another disturbing question from your coach, free of charge today. What are you neglecting that could lead to regret? In other words, what are you not doing or how are you not being these days that you might in the future look back on and regret? You might regret an action you're taking right now or a way of being that you're being right now. This would be a great moment in your life to change that, to own it, to quit making excuses for being that kind of person or doing that. Give up that grudge, give up those hard feelings, that resentment, that little petty selfishness. Um, how much time and attention are you currently giving to things that don't matter? I watch too much news on TV. I'm confessing my sins to my little group here today. I'm giving too much attention and time to that. It's easy. It's you sit in the chair, you can be passive. You're not really actively putting any effort in. You just kind of be any kind of entertainment can be like that. Certain kinds of eating can certainly be like that. But how much time and attention are you currently giving to things that don't matter? In other words, they're not important. Here's the excuse we get when we start to ask questions about important things. I don't have time. Well, you do have time. You have 80 boxes, and that's all you've got, and that's all you get. It's how you choose to fill those boxes. And just like your garage, when you clean it out, it immediately starts to fill back up. And that is what will happen. The default in life is that urgency will rule and take over unless you proactively choose to fill those boxes differently. And when you start to live in integrity and in line with your true non negotiables and what's important, you start to have a sense of satisfaction and peace. When you're not living in line with what you say or what you believe to be most important, you have chaos inside. Very simple concepts, but often not thought about, I believe, not reflected on. So we've talked about being, and that's the foundation. And those are deep questions and they penetrate way down and they really get to the heart of the matter. But if we just get all of our heart and all of that straightened and we don't do anything, we still don't have what we want. We won't get what we want. So, what shift your do by practicing what is important? I took piano lessons as a kid. Practice was the key. Some of you are sports people. You know the routine. It is consistently and continually practicing. And so here's a question that comes out of that thought. What is one thing you could do every day that would greatly enrich your life? Bet that's not the first time you've heard that question, but I think it's good to ask that from time to time. What's one thing? Urgent people think about the 50 things they have to do, they need to do. And the fact is, that's a big delusion. You don't have to do anything. You don't need to do anything. There are consequences if you don't do things, but you don't have to. So, what do I choose to do? What's the one thing I could choose that would make the biggest difference? Wow, if you just come out of this meeting this morning with that answer, how great would that be? Second, what is the one thing that you could stop doing that would align you with your non negotiables? In other words, what's the clutter and the garbage that we just need to take the garbage out? The stuff that's in the way. You know what they are. I'm not even going to give you examples. You know what they are. The stuff that you're allowing, the cockroaches, the bugs, the little stain here and the spot there and the stuff that we're just not being responsible for, that if we took care of it and we addressed it, it would align us with who we want to be. Third, what baggage? Urgent clutter of very low importance. That's what I call baggage. All this cluttery stuff that just time wasters. Could you throw out that would create some space for some gold? Some really important, beautiful things before you pass off this earth that could be accomplished or done or experienced if you get rid of some of the clutter. And finally, This is a bonus one. Hope it applies to everybody who hears this presentation. For those who have the priority of seeking God's kingdom and your relationship with your Creator is primary importance, what actions could you take starting today that would align your life with loving Him with your heart, soul, mind, and strength and serving other people? I think that's a beautiful question. What could I do today that would shift me more in line with that priority? So that's what I have for you today. Just a lot of questions and a lot of and an 80, an 8 by 10 grid and kind of looking in the mirror today. So here's what I'm offering. I always have an offer at the end. I'll send you that slide with all those questions and a couple other articles. You just have to email me and ask. Second, there's about 300 more articles and other YouTube links. This will be on the link as well if you want to share this with somebody else or want to look at it again. That's all at no cost to you. You can also sign up to get a weekly article from me. I'm writing a new article every Monday. I still do that. I love doing it. That you can find at the website. And third, if you would just like to have a conversation about priorities, since that's what we talked about today, or anything else for that matter, where you just want that outside reflection and somebody who will listen and care, email me, Dave Beam at mentordavebeam.com, and I'll send you a link for 30, 45-minute conversation and we'll have it. I love that. So that is what we have today. And I hope, even though this was challenging and a little heavy today, that it will leave you with some possibilities. So thank you for being here. We'll see you at our next event, hopefully. Bye-bye.